Thanks for joining the Joss and Crowd podcast, where we talk about photography, business, life, and a little bit more.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being on our podcast today. I can't wait to hear all the things. I know that we've touched base already about it, but go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I am a mom that lives in Wisconsin. I married my high school sweetheart. Um, I've known for a very long time that I wanted to take care of people. So I'm a registered nurse. I work in oncology and I help people navigate around the system of the oncology world, getting payments. And I've always known that I wanted to take care of people. So that's kind of where I stayed. And then the pandemic hits and you kind of like start second guessing what you want to do. And then I lost my dad November 2021. And that was very difficult because he was my rock. We did everything together. We hunted, he took care of my kids. So it was very hard and very sudden. And I just needed to rethink about what I wanted to do with my life and wanting to be there for my kids. And that's when I joined a program, and that helped me rethink what I wanted to do. So then came living the Mac life. So living the Mac life is living a manageable and attainable and chill life. That came because I needed to learn how to start. I couldn't rely on my dad for everything. So I kind of had to start doing things. And don't get me wrong, my husband helps a ton, but personally, I needed to grow. So now I get to help other moms do that as well and learn that their mindset can be so powerful that they don't have to be overwhelmed all the time. So with knowing I want to take care of people, now I get to help mamas and help them feel better about getting their time back and living life the way they want to live and on their terms.
That's awesome. So what was some steps that like led up to you wanting to help moms? Was it just something that you felt compelled or?
So I just felt like I was always overwhelmed with the day-to-day schedules. And I learned so much with being in different programs and taking different courses. And I feel really good about how I can manage my time, manage with the kids, that I want to help other people do that. I want to help other moms do that because the weight off my shoulders is so much, like, I just don't feel like I'm being crushed all the time with the whole world. So I want to be able to help women feel lighter in their life and feel that they don't have to worry about schedules all the time or the next meal, whatever it may be.
That's awesome. So is that something that you offer in like a coaching program, or is it, do you have a Facebook group? Like, how do you connect with moms?
I connect with moms well Facebook on my regular. I am very raw about my life. I have talked about my postpartum depression. My little guy, he is a little terror, so I talk about that and how we manage things. And then, but I do have a coaching program that there's different levels. So maybe you just need a little bit of a mindset check. So I can send you daily affirmations, motivational quotes, whatever makes you feel better. And I really like to work with the person because every mom is in a different situation. They need help with different areas. So there's packages, but there's also, if you want help and you think I can help you, I want to do that. So let's figure that out together. So we've got the affirmations. And then I know a lot of moms, they're so busy. So I don't want them tied down to listening to calls or anything else. So there's work on your own. So the independent worker that I have them fill out a form and we figure out problem areas. And then we work on that together through Voxer. So I can message them back and forth. I set a plan up to see what, like, these are your goals. This is how are we going to reach those? So they do the work and then I help guide them along the way to reach those, because I don't know about you, but when you meet a goal by yourself or you get help, but it feels so good and uplifting. And then my last package is it's my big package, and that's where you get a lot of the support, a lot of my one-on-one time, but you also get a community of other moms that may need that help as well. So it's a good area to be at because sometimes we don't have that positivity around us, and that environment is an uplifting, positive, share your stories because there is no mom guilt there. And then I also give tips and tricks, and we'll do some mom socials and some trainings as well.
That's super fun. I feel like you touched base on it when you said when you celebrate a goal. I think a lot of, especially entrepreneurs I've known, and I'm sure it happens with moms, you create, like, you accomplish a goal and you look around and you're like, there's nobody to tell, or like people don't understand it. So like, that's awesome that you guys have that support that you can cheer each other on and share those accomplishments so that you like work towards it. What is one of the things that you think is like the biggest problems that moms come to you for?
I think it's the time and getting things done. But then I did some market research, and they're like everything. But when I think of everything, I'm thinking, well, it's the time. Like, oh my gosh, that kid's running around the house and I want to be doing the laundry over there, but I need to be watching him, and that happens a lot with him, or um, dishes or events that the kids have running around and then not being able to take care of themselves. So I think mostly the time and being able to get things done or planning things out is one big problem.
Is that something that you like help them with time blocking? And I am unfortunately not a mother, but I feel like a lot of my friends that are moms always end up putting themselves last. It's like, we got to take care of the kids, got to take care of the house, got to take care of the job, and then at the end of the day, their bucket for themselves is completely empty.
Huh. And I focus on moms because I am one, but I think that there are a lot of people that take care of their aunts or their grandmas, their grandpas, that just because you don't have kids doesn't mean that that wouldn't apply to them. It's just more of that group. So yeah, we would be sitting down looking at what needs to get done. And that's where we work out a personal schedule. So what does your spouse do? What are your kids in? Do you have prior commitments? So we look at all of that to figure out, okay, so if we can break down laundry one day, and then maybe your kids are old enough to start chores, we can start incorporating chores with the kids that are appropriate and make them feel good. Because my daughter, she loves helping. We were unloading the dishwasher and she was so excited to put a pan away. Like, that was 5 less steps I had to take, but she enjoyed. So it's breaking it down, including everybody, and having more time to yourself. And because you have that schedule, and I know if things come up, I do know that. So heaven forbid something does not come up, but it's working on their schedules personally, because I know everybody's different. So it's not a one size fits all.
It's probably also teaching the kids for later in life. Like, one of my worst things that I have to do as an adult is dishes. I feel like I talk about the dishes way more as an adult than I should on my social media, but I always just feel like it's a pain. But I also think as a kid, like, that was like not a punishment, but it was like, it's your turn to do them. You have to do these instead of like getting to do them for fun. And if you're doing the dishes with your daughter, like, that's time to bond with her. And she's going to know, like, as she is an adult out on her own, like, well, my mom was able to manage this and my mom was able to do this with me, then I can too. Like, it sets future groundwork. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And as a kid growing up, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and we weren't allowed in the kitchen when it was her alone time.
Yeah.
If she was home with us, that was her alone time. So we weren't allowed in the kitchen. And my poor husband, I'm learning to cook now because I did invest in myself and my family, and I did enter a program that helps me with meals. So, and I get to cook them, and Kinsley gets to help. So that's a whole nother thing, is looking at that. But I didn't have those skills. and I'm learning, and I get to help my daughter learn as well. So
That is something that I feel like is on my list because I just don't like cooking. Uh, I feel like we end up eating in 5 minutes and it takes like an hour to prep the food and cook the food and then clean it and everything. And I think that that is a task that just as adults, you have to do it to live, but it's not something that we set aside to learn how to cook with foods, and foods are always changing. So, what is something that you like a tip you give to moms for managing their time?
I like to say, if it doesn't get done, don't worry about it. I think that if there's something going on with the kids, don't feel guilty for not getting done that task. I think that was a big mindset change for me, is that I would always get worked up about not finishing something, and it would just eat at me, and it'd make me drain that I didn't finish it. But as moms, we're living in the moment with our kids. They're not going to be little forever. So yeah, setting that time up, but knowing that if it doesn't get done, that's okay, and it'll still be there.
Yeah. And there's no reason to be hard on yourself for it still being there either. You can just get to
There's
it.
not.
I think that I have a couple of friends that come to mind when I like think of this because they want to be super moms. That it's like they want to make sure that the kids are at the sports, they want to make sure the house is clean, that dinner's done, and they end up just super tired and then irritable because they didn't get the support that they needed, or nobody noticed that they did all of those things. Like I'm constantly texting my friends like, you're a great mom. So it's awesome that you get to do this. What is like I guess it would be a case, but like a situation that you feel like you just saw like the mom just switch and have a whole different effect on her life, like a success story?
I would say when you're able to change the mindset. So I just like when you finally get to them and be like, okay, everything's not gloom and doom. Like it is, some things are, but it's just that positive mindset. And she was going through that, that gloom and doom. And then the positive thoughts kept coming. And then it was like the manifesting, like, yep, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And it did. And then the look on her face of just, wow, this can happen. And I can set up my time and follow it, but also realize that it may not happen the way I want it. And that's okay. So just the you can tell in someone's face when changes actually happen and they're happy that they're following the path that they want to, and how they present themselves, how they're talking to you, how they're writing things out is all changing because their mindset has changed and they're able to live out how they want to.
That's awesome. So how many people are in your program?
So right now, so I'm switching gears with things. I have 2 people in my group right now. I was doing just like 2-month calls, or 2-month time frames, and now just switching on to my I literally just last month started switching into the longer programs and everything like that. So
That's awesome. And how many kids do you have?
I have 2. Kinsley is 5.5 and Felix is 19 months. He is very busy. He keeps me on my toes. He is why I dye my hair so often.
So what
He's the
made
reason I
you
need self-care. He's the reason I need self-care.
what made you want to do this, and how did you come about the name for your business?
Yeah, so living the Mac life. Mac is my dad's initials, Michael Allen Cherney, and he always was there cheering me on. And actually my necklace, it's an urn necklace, so I always wear it, so he's always with me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so it was a way for him to always be with me and cheering me on, is having him in my logo. He always signed his name Mac, and so that is part of that. And Mac stands for my business: manageable, attainable, and chill life. Um, and that when I lost him, like I said, I had to figure out life without him, and that was very difficult because he was so. I saw him every day. I mean, we lived less than 5 minutes from each other, and so it was difficult. Like I just hopped the fence over the highway and we got to the got to his house. So it was difficult. So I had to learn to manage my time, manage my schedule differently, because instead of just relying on him saying, "Hey dad, Jeremy's got," so my husband's a police officer as well. So he's busy. He's the canine officer. So he's at different trainings, and he's gone often. So I had to be like, "Hey dad, Jeremy's got court, or he's got called in. Can you watch Felix and Kinsley, or what Kinsley just at that time?" So, and he's, "Yeah, just bring him over." So I had to figure out a new process of dealing with all of that. And I mean, it took a tragedy to figure out, like, I had to readjust my life and readjust my mindset. And I don't want women moms to feel that they need to hit rock bottom or have an event like that happen to know that they could do better with their life. They can do more with their life. They can get time back. They can have a schedule placed, a system set up that would make life easier. So I started figuring that out, and I'm like, this is working for me. I'm happy. I'm enjoying my kids. I'm enjoying my time. I enjoy my work. That I want to help others do that as well.
You took a thing in the middle of grief and made it a blessing, which is pretty awesome. I'm very proud of you for doing that. Grief is very overwhelming and very consuming for a lot of people, and if you push through it, a lot of good things can come from it. And that's also awesome that your husband is a police officer and a canine officer. What is the dog's name?
The dog's name, her name is Karma.
Karma. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. So they just actually started working together. They were on the road not even 3 weeks together before my dad had passed. So it was a lot of changes. I changed jobs on November 1st. My husband got back from a full month being away of training at the end of October, and then my dad passed away November 18th. So it was a lot. And then I took on a commitment for a full year program, a coaching program. So it was a lot, but I really got to channel that grief into something positive for myself, my family, and it just worked out that way, that I had the support. My husband was a wonderful support. Like, I talked it out all the time. Like, there was no holding anything back. There was no tears held back. I have a wonderful support family. On my husband's side, that would help me through things. They would help with the kids, and they still do. My family was always supportive. So, I mean, really had that system. So I know not everybody has that support system, but I mean, to have, even with that group that I joined the program, I didn't know anybody. I never physically met anybody until July when we went to Florida. But they all had like-minded goals. They all were supportive and positive, that I felt like I could share with them, and thankful that I had them. So that's what the type of environment that I want to give these moms is. These moms also want to change their life. They want to do more with their life. They are ready to make changes. So you can, and that's where it's different with healthcare. And what with my program is, with healthcare, I'm navigating people that didn't want this to happen to them. So I'm helping them through their worst times and giving them advice, financial, whatever it may be, where it's a different feeling for myself, wanting to help people that want the help. They want the change, but aren't sure where to go. So it lights me up seeing other people want to change, and they do change because they want it.
So I feel like I have a friend that comes to mind too, is like she has kids already and she just lost one of her newborn babies passed away. And I think that like the grief that she's experiencing is being masked, and she's definitely um living for her kids and her husband and trying to consume it. And I think a lot of times people do that with like postpartum and other types of grief too, just not a parent, but either like a best friend or, yeah, any type of family members of grief too. And I think that that is a support that people don't realize. So that you have experience with that is pretty awesome, that you can also help. And it's not just being overwhelmed as a mom or being overwhelmed in a job, but you also have a different experience that some people might not have had or will have, and they'll know how to handle it when it comes to them.
And with post, and I so sorry for your friend, because that's a whole different grief that I don't know if I could ever understand, because I haven't and haven't had to deal with it. But that's just terrible. You had mentioned postpartum. I've been through postpartum. I had it very bad after my son. I was suicidal, and there would be times that I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. The kids would be crying. He would be crying. Kinsley would be asking for mom, and literally just could not move. I didn't want to eat. I was very shut off from the world. But if I had to go out, I put on that face. I put on the mask because my family, my kids needed it. And I just feel like I knew I needed help, but I didn't go get help. Almost that like ashamed that I need the help. And that was another mindset change that I got to make, because postpartum happens a lot, and it actually gets worse after your second. If you had it your first child, you're probably going to get it worse with your second child. And I was so blessed to have my OBGYN. She was great. She recognized it. She put me on medication. I was able to work on what I needed to work on, and I finally did come off the medication. But she didn't make me feel ashamed. She didn't make me feel like I was less of a mom because I couldn't take care of my children. And it was because she had gone through it, I was able to connect and feel like, okay, this is okay. And I will get through this, because there she was. But putting up that mask of needing to take care of your family and your kids, other task is, I think, is bull crap, because we're important to us. I mean, what if I was taking care of myself during that time, and good quality time, like going, like I like getting my hair done. I like going to get massages, or I needed alone time. What if I was doing that without feeling guilty? Would I have been better? I don't know. Like, I can't say that I would or wouldn't have been, but I know that I do that now. And I don't feel like I need to put my kids in foster care as much anymore. So
Yeah.
I don't go completely crazy, because I do take care of myself, and I take that time for myself.
I feel like a lot of people say that they feel like they have a lot of mom shame and mom guilt for doing things. Why do you think that is? And what is like something that you suggest that they can help get through that?
I think it's society. I mean, it's the working moms, it's the or the stay-at-home moms, that they're told that if they're home, they need to have everything done for their husbands when they get home. The single moms that don't have help, and they feel they feel bad asking for help. So, I mean, in different situations, the working mom, they have to work two full-time jobs pretty much, because they're doing their job and they're coming home and they're helping, and I'm going to say doing, they're helping, because I believe that if you have a significant other, each person should be doing their part, because you both are deciding to work. And I know that with my husband and I, we do very well with that. He always jokes that we moved into our house in 2017. He jokes that I have only touched the vacuum like 10 times, and that's probably true. So he does the vacuuming, and then there's other things that we do. So it's a back and forth. But I mean, I've been at home 2 days in a row with my kids, and those stay-at-home moms, I don't know how they do it. I do not. So but I also then know that they need the self-care and they need to probably, they should ask for help and not feel shamed by when society says that when they're at home, they need to do everything, because I can't do everything with my two kids at home, and get everything done. And the moms that don't have anybody around, that's a lot of work, for one person, and not to feel ashamed to ask for help. And I would tell them that it doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't matter the stigma or what people say about stay at working moms, stay at home moms, single moms, that you're doing the damn best you can, and that's okay. You're doing good.
I think with what you were talking about, the vacuuming and stuff, there's so many people that I've seen on Facebook and groups. I'm in a lot of mom groups, even though I'm not a mom, but I think it's because I'm a business. And so like people tag me and I'm in it. And I see so many times people are so ashamed to ask to hire like a cleaning service or like meal prep. And it's like, well, I'm home. Shouldn't I be able to just do this myself? And to me, I'm like, no, go hire somebody. If you have the means, like that is creating a job for somebody else that actually enjoys doing it. There are people that love cleaning. Like I follow a lady on TikTok who literally cleans people's homes for free. She goes into people's homes that have like severe depression or postpartum, that have just been overwhelmed and their house got away from them, and she does it for free, and she could probably charge thousands of dollars for what she does, but the amount of good that she's doing for people because she enjoys doing it. And I think that that is one of the things that women have a hard time. They see that money going somewhere where they're like, oh, that could go to little Jimmy's soccer fund, and that can go to little Kimmy's summer camp. But if your home is clean, then your environment might feel better. And then you might be able to spend more time with your kids by outsourcing some of those things that can ease the burden of all of your to-do list too. And I think that so many women just get overwhelmed and feel ashamed for that. And I always want to help people. So now I'm just going to direct them to you. Be like,
Well,
please take this.
I think the most time consuming thing is what to make for dinner. I signed up for something that they give me the shopping list. Heaven forbids going to a shopping store with two kids. Oh no. Instacart things too. Like I used to feel ashamed for that. Like, oh, that's so lazy. People actually do that. And then I did it. I'm like, oh, that was so nice. That was an hour and a half of my time I got back.
Oh, and Instacart's
course,
marketing is amazing too, because they tell you how many hours of your life you saved, and you're like, I don't feel guilty about this anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and save more hours of my life and Instacart my groceries today.
They need to add a filter saying, so how many kids do you have? What are their age? And put like real time that you save, because I know I could be in the grocery store for hours. But, and that's one thing I do, like I do Instacart, but I also take my daughter so she can understand money and shopping and portions and what's healthy and what's not. So, I mean,
That's smart.
there's a balance that she gets to come with and learn, but then it's always at the grocery at the end of checkout. Mom, can I get a treat? Actually, it's asking throughout the store. And then we get there like, I want that one.
That's awesome. I used Instacart prior to 2020. And then it just got inundated. I live in the city, so when COVID hit, it was your order will be ready in 7 days. So I did have to start going back into the store, and I realized that I was spending a lot more time in the grocery store than I realized, just reading labels and just searching for things. So I think there's a time and place for it for sure. One of my friends just got I don't know what the delivery service is, but she gets all of her food. She's like, she can go and pick a menu, and then she gets her food delivered once a week, and it creates meals. And I've watched her and her daughter just on like Snapchat stories make the meals together, and they're like already pre-portioned, and then they get to have a nice meal together. So she's found something that's worked for her around that, but she also still goes to the grocery store and stuff like that. And I think meals is such a huge thing, and like obviously we need to eat to stay alive, but I think that is like a bonding experience. I think as Americans too, we bond over food greatly.
Yeah. Well, in like a childhood, I remember sitting at the dinner table having a meat, potato, another veggie, and bread. Like that was just the norm. So we live in the country. We're probably about 15 to 20 minutes closest to town. So sometimes it is a hassle to go in. So we can't get our groceries delivered. We have to pick them up, and that's okay. But that's just what I remember. So I get to help my kids get new traditions. Like there's been foods that we've tried like with spices and stuff that I'm like, what is that? Like, am I gonna like that? But the kids love it. I like it. And I don't have to worry about what I'm cooking. Like I have it all prepped, ready to go. My time is 1 hour, and then I get 1 hour prepping, and then the rest of the week it's maybe 20 minutes actually cooking the food and getting it ready. And we're on the go all the time. So it's so helpful. That's one thing that I find that money is worth, getting that time back. Next is a cleaner. I will be hiring a cleaner.
Yeah. So with your program, do you have like a food category where people can look up recipes and share recipes and dinner ideas and have that kind of support?
So I don't have that, but I've been working with someone to have that as an option. So the person that I go through for that, we've been working together to figure out a plan. But every once in a while, I do share a recipe that my family absolutely loves.
That's awesome. I feel like nowadays, I see my friends go from school to soccer games or football games or dance, and then they go home and it's dinner, and like everything is so routine, and they just get really, really busy and overwhelmed with all of those schedules. What is something that you suggest where they can fit in time for themselves in a busy day like that?
I am not a morning person, so I don't really preach get up in the early and enjoy your morning time, which is a fabulous option if you like the morning, but my bed calls me and it keeps me there.
Same, girl, same.
I don't like getting out of bed. I know some people like to get up and they like to be up and ready before the kids get up, and they feel accomplished doing that. I feel accomplished when I can sleep past the kids. So, I would say even 20 minutes. So if you're driving to work, find your favorite podcast, find your favorite music. I mean, even just listening to some upbeat music on the way to work, that's self-care. I mean, that gets me going. And when I take a shower, I blast music. I am the world's best singer and dancer when I'm in the shower. That helps. Maybe
I don't think people realize that is self-care. Like
it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I'm also working on a program. It's an e-learning for beating the holidays, the holiday overwhelm. So I talk about that in there. So, but I mean, with other self-care, like maybe you walk into work, that's self-care. I mean, maybe you don't get an exercise in, but maybe parking at the end of the parking lot and walking in. I have a little bit more of a jog to walk into work, and I make sure I do park farther away, or I do take that time to walk. Maybe it's putting the kids to bed and sitting in silence, feeling not guilty for not doing the laundry and watching a show on Netflix or Hulu, whatever it may be. Maybe it's going to bed early, putting a face mask on, doing your nails, asking for help. I think the brilliant idea of, if you have kids, you probably know other parents that you can ask them to have a play date. And maybe it's just for a little bit and you get to go get your hair done. And then you flip flop, and then someone else can go take care of and have self-care time. So it's building those bonds. It's a win-win. You get to take care of yourself, and your kids get to have fun with some friends as well and be social. So even if it's just 5 minutes of a walk, your shower, maybe it's listening to something that's uplifting, podcast, whatever it may be. That's self-care. It's anything that will decrease your stimuli in your brain just to relax for a little bit, because there's so much stimuli, especially coming up to the holidays, that it just keeps your brain going and it needs to shut off for a little bit.
I think too, with holidays, it's a trigger for a lot of people. My I'm not going to call my family out, but my family, it was very stressful growing up around the holidays. My mom had a home bakery, and then she eventually had a brick and mortar bakery. And of course, Christmas was the busy time for cookies, and we were always very stressed out. And I realized as an adult, I do the same thing. And several years ago, I just started saying no to all the holiday events and spending time with myself. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need to be going to all of these holiday parties. I know that I can stay home. And I think that people feel like they have to go do things, that they have to be at all the parties, they have to do all the gifts. And like, no is starting to become one of my favorite words. And I see so many moms, they're like, I have to buy gifts for the teachers. I have to buy gifts for the cleaning lady. Like, no, you don't. Like, you can just say thank you, here's a Christmas card, or just text them. Like, I think we overcomplicate things, and I see it in my friends with kids all the time, that they overextend themselves when they don't really need to. Like, they're still going to be a great person and great mom if they're not buying 100 kids. And I have a lot of friends that are teachers. They don't really care. Like, they don't care if you don't get them a gift. I don't know when that trend started. I don't know if you have it in Wisconsin, but in here in Ohio, it's like they have to have, every teacher has to have a gift. And my friends are like, no, we don't. Like, your kid learning from us is our gift. Like, our face lights up when your kids are learning from us, are excited to come into school that day. Like, we don't need this present every holiday. And of course, they feel like they have to compete. And they're like, well, so-and-so's mom's doing that, and so-and-so did that, and I have to do that. And like, you really don't.
The comparison monster, it's no good. No good. Like, send a nice message to your teachers throughout the school year. Like, Kinsley, I mean, she loves her teacher, so I'll send a message to her teacher.
And they
Every once
save
in a while.
those.
And they do. So it was the other day I got donuts, and my husband, he thinks he's a winner and needs sprinkles on his donuts, and they didn't have any. I love that commercial, but and we always make fun of him because he loves sprinkles. But so there was no sprinkle donuts, and he got what I just got that. So he looked at him, he goes, "Ugh, there's no sprinkles. I don't want it." And my daughter goes, "You get what you get, and you won't throw a fit." And we're all like, "What?" And we're like, "Kinsley, where'd you learn that?" She goes, "Miss Panzer tells us that." And I'm like, messaging Miss Panzer, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is what happened. It absolutely made our day. Like, thank you so much." Like,
Yeah.
and we'll send messages like of things that happen, and that she says about Miss Panzer, and we'll go throughout the year. I mean, telling her, because people do not hear compliments enough.
Yep.
Why gift them once a year or twice a year if you do birthday, whatever it may be, is something that you appreciate them. You don't have to spend money to show people that you care for them. A simple note that's heartwarming and telling them how much you care, a text message saying that you're there for them, that's way more than enough.
My mom having a bakery growing up, we gave cookies at Christmas. And back then when we were kids, like, not a lot of teachers got gifts. Like, it became more popular in the last decade or so. But a lot of the teachers wrote my mom thank you notes, and she put them all in her cookbook. And like, one year for Christmas, I asked for copies of the cookbook. So me and my sisters all got she photocopied all of her recipes and included all of those messages from the teachers. And I'm sure I probably drew a ton of pictures for my teachers, being an artist, but those handwritten notes were so sweet and thoughtful. And I still, like, those were my favorite teachers. And I hope at Christmas time they're like, "Oh, my student elementary made these Christmas cookies," and I always think about them. And I think that, like, that's where it's important. And it's not saying everybody should go bake cookies by any means, but overdoing it is only going to stress you out. And then it's not going to be enjoyable to give gifts, which I think is the whole point of giving gifts, because it makes people feel good. But overextending yourself isn't a requirement in life.
No, and quick tip for anybody about the holiday season. Do you know most grocery stores now make blank sugar cookies so that you don't have to bake them? You can just decorate them.
Yes.
I love that idea. I'm like, we're so small town, so that probably has been happening for a while, but
Yeah.
like time saving.
We have so I was making sugar cookies. I started making so side story. My father was a volunteer cannot talk today. A voluntary fire man when I think prior to when my parents got married. So he had told us this story every Christmas Eve about how one night on a call, somebody's house was burning down, and there were three little girls that were barefoot in their pajamas on Christmas Eve, standing outside their home watching their home burn down. And I know that sounds like a horrific story for a father to tell his three daughters on Christmas Eve every year, but it was so like that was my dad's story. Like he'd probably still tell it if he lived in Ohio, but um it made us appreciate the holiday a little bit more and like grateful that we went to bed in a house, it was warm and my dad kept us safe. And when I became an adult and didn't have anybody on Christmas Eve because, I didn't have any kids and I'm not married or whatever, I started baking things for the fire department. So that turned into making sugar cookies, and then that spread into baking cookies for the police department as well. So on Christmas Eve, I picked out multiple fire stations and police stations. Not every police station allows them or fire station because of the safety risks or whatever. So I started doing that, and it's been really nice and rewarding, and they get really excited. And that's my Christmas Eve tradition now. But I started making sugar cookies instead of cupcakes and other cookies. And I do like the decorating ones. And then it kind of turned into a side business this summer. And people have already been asking about Christmas orders. They're like, I want to have, like, can you make the boxes where they're just sugar cookies with the icing so that they can purchase just that and then decorate them with their kids. And that is something that they can give as gifts too, because they're already decorated, they're already baked. So I think people get overwhelmed with tasks and don't realize that you can not half-ass, but kind of half-ass things. Like you don't have to buy all the flour, you don't have to buy all the sugar. Like there are people that like baking that will get you what you need, and then you can still give a quote unquote homemade gift to somebody as well. But that was a total side story.
No, but you know what? It saves people time. It saves
Yeah.
people probably some money. And it's the time that you get to bond. I have not found a sugar cookie recipe that I absolutely love or I don't get mad at that it's so sticky. So buying the cookies up is just fine for me.
Yeah. And like that's the thing I don't think people realize is like every person in this world has a gift and a talent, and they want to utilize those gifts and talents like yours. Like you get to help other people. Like those are your gifts and your talents that you're using. If somebody doesn't use those gifts, then you aren't living your complete life. Like we're all here just connecting and helping each other. Like you being on my podcast helps me, like and vice versa, like everything that we do that we're good at and passionate about serves another purpose. So if a mom is sitting there, she's by herself trying to do everything on her own, there are so many people that have a bigger purpose that want to help, that are here to help, that it's okay to ask for those things because they're here to help you become a better mom. That was a whole tangent.
No, that was a good tangent. I mean, it's telling people they can save time, and it just how you said that you were grateful for your house, a warm house, and that your dad kept it safe. Like, I don't think they take it for granted, all of the little things that happen around the holidays that, I mean, they get so overwhelmed with the to-do list, the presents, the attitudes that come with the everything about the holidays that they forget to think about. Like with kids, like I light up when the grandparents get to watch the kids play and like looking at their faces or how the kids interact with their cousins. Like it's just that's heartwarming. That's the things that I'm going to remember and I focus on, like, that's what's going to happen during the holiday season, than someone not liking their gift or anything like that, because it's not one of those things that I probably can't, I won't be able to remember certain gifts after a couple years, because they may, not that they're not memorable. It's just that I want family time, and I don't, the gifts are just there. So,
I was talking to my friend about this yesterday. Essentially, it was probably the day before yesterday because of like Halloween. You only get essentially like 18 holidays with your kids before they get to grow up and go start their own families. And as you know, like your father passed away right before Thanksgiving, and those those are the moments that you can't get back. And
mhm.
why stress about the stupid things that are not important instead of focusing on those? Like as a photographer, it's really, really hard to be around people that, like, I've fluctuated in weight a lot of my life. Like I lost 100 pounds and then gained some more back and up and down. And I've actively tried to make sure that I still exist in photographs. So I get it. Like when I tell people, I'm like, you just need to just ignore that thought because they don't want to be in photos because they feel like they need to lose weight or they feel like they're bigger, especially after they just had babies. Like that is normal. Like your body just brought a life into the world. And I think like existing in photographs is so important because you just need to enjoy that time you have with your family. And um it's okay to look back and enjoy that memory attached to the photo and not just that weight that you were carrying. I think that as a photographer, I see a lot of moms, like all of the different types of work I do as moms, and they just don't realize how beautiful they are, and they don't realize how strong they are mentally and physically. And like I tried to show them that, be like, you brought 5 children in this world and your body is still functioning. Like you're still getting up every day, you're still remembering to do things. And I think that self-love and self-care and um putting themselves last has become such a trend in this society, and I hate that because like luckily I'm very thankful that um not that my mom put us last, but like my mom did take time for herself and she taught us to do that. Like she was a business owner and she also worked full time. She had 3 kids. She lost a baby before I was born. So like there was a lot of struggle. She had health issues too. And I think like she still was a great role model. She still is. I talk to her literally every day, probably annoy the crap out of her, but um
What
it's
moms are for.
right. That's what she says constantly. She's like, that's what I'm here for, Jocelyn. It's okay. But like she set an example for me. And so like even though I don't have kids, I know that I can support my friends that also have kids, and I can start seeing like when they need help. And I'll text my friend and be like, hey, do you need me to come help fold the laundry? Or do you need me to come watch the kids while you go on a walk? Or just say, like, do you want to go walk through the grocery store or go shopping together? And I think that that is something that is important to me with my friends because one, I like being around kids and I don't get to be around them very often, but it teaches them for different generations. So not making time for yourself now is teaching your kids to not make time for themselves. And you got to break that generational pattern of it's not just a trend of people not taking care of themselves. Like that's going to last forever. Like you're teaching them not to do that.
Well, and the body positivity, I know Danielle was on the podcast and she's amazing at what she talks about.
Yeah.
And I listen to her talk and we talk often. So it's one thing that changed with my daughter. And I think that it can change with all women because kids are watching, little girls are watching, boys are watching, whatever it may be, that when you look into a mirror, you try something on, or you're talking, they're listening. And
Mm-hmm.
if they are like, oh, this, or oh, like, they're watching, they're taking it in, and that's setting them up to think that that's normal. So I don't look in front of the mirror as much anymore, especially when I'm getting ready, just because I'm like, she's going to look like, she probably will see it on my face, like, oh, the love handles or something like that. Like, but I've also changed my wardrobe to make me feel comfortable. But I'm proud of my body. It's been what it's done. And I mean, kids or no kids, you go through grief, you go through tragedy, you go through ups and downs, and whatever it may be, your body takes a toll. So whatever that may be, we get older and our hormones shift. Like, our body does amazing things. So we get to appreciate what our bodies can do, but we also have to give back to our bodies and be thankful that they're doing those, and feed them and nurture them properly too.
And sometimes if that's sitting in your car eating a Snickers, my sister, I went out, I doubt my sister listens to my podcast, but if she does, sorry, I'm sharing your story. But my sister had my nephew, my oldest nephew, he was, I believe, 2 at the time, and she had a 1-month-old, my other nephew. And on his 1 month, my brother-in-law had gotten deployed. He's in the Marines, and he was in Afghanistan at the time. And I flew out to help my sister because it was just very overwhelming for her at the time. And we stopped in a 7-Eleven. We don't have a 7-Eleven in Zone, Ohio, and she was out in California. And I was like, I want to go to 7-Eleven. Like, people are always joking about 7-Eleven, and they have the best watermelon slushies. But she got like a Snickers bar, and she just was like, I just want to sit in the car for a minute and eat my Snickers. I'm like, all right, let's sit here in the car. And I've always remembered that, whether she realizes it or not. Like, sometimes when life gets overwhelming, sometimes you just need to sit and enjoy a Snickers. Like, you don't have to, self-care isn't going to the gym and taking bubble baths. It's sometimes crying. It's sometimes sitting in the dark, like feeling your emotions, journaling, calling a friend and just venting. And so I think like that is a super important thing. And my sister was going through a difficult time. Like, she has a newborn baby, she has a 2-year-old, and her husband's in a war zone. And I'm like, okay, if she just needs me to sit here with her while we eat a Snickers, this is going, I think of her every time I see Snickers now, because I'm like, oh, sometimes you just have to take a break. And like, sometimes drinking water. And I don't think, it's probably because I'm on the outside and not a mom, I see more of it. But I think a lot of times people are just so hard on themselves, and they don't need to be. There's support there. And I think that that's what's great about your program is that they don't have to feel guilty about it, because it's a bunch of other women that are feeling the same way and needing support too.
Definitely. Well, and taking that break, and like you said, people bottle things up, and when they don't talk about it, so your sister told you she needed a break, and she told you her needs at that point. Moms don't do that, because it's always taking care of someone else's needs first. So it's, no, I need you to watch I need, talking to their significant other, whoever, I need someone to watch the kids for 20 minutes, and I just need to lay in bed and just unplug, whatever it may be. That's what I need. Or it's journaling. Journaling is amazing. You get all of your thoughts out, you brain dump everything that's bothering you, and you get to keep going. It's going to bed early. Something that I do that really helps me is, because my brain does not shut off at night, is, I learned this from a friend too, that if you keep thinking about things, just imagine closing your eyes, and your eyes are closed, and you're imagining what you're thinking about, and you're saying, okay, that can wait till later, and you put it into a bucket. And like, you're just repeating, it can wait till tomorrow, it can wait till tomorrow. And I've been able to, it's like counting sheep, but like, I turn off all of the other thoughts, like nothing, I'm not going to be productive at this point, so it can wait till tomorrow. And if I need to write things down, I'll write it down so I remember it. And then off to bed I go.
I started writing an email to myself and emailing it. And if it's still important the next day, then I'll get to it in my email. And most of the time, those things that I was worried about in the middle of the night, I just delete the email. Like, that wasn't important. I didn't need to worry about that. But journaling, I think, is not as utilized as much as it should. I know that I sell journals and gratitude journals and stuff like that, but I got a notebook a couple years ago that it literally, and I told my mom about it too. It literally says like, throw away upon my death, do not read. And it's like angry things or like frustrated things of like how like somebody upset me that day or just things that I was stressed about. And when I lay in bed at night, if there's something that's bothered me, I'm like, I can't believe that person said that to me, or this person cut me off in the road today. Like I just brain dump that in that journal. Most of the times I end up like ripping it up and throwing away because it's so like therapeutic. But sometimes like my friends will be like, man, my kids are such little shits today. And I always am like, who'd imagine saying that about my kids? But sometimes they are like, sometimes you need a vent about that. And I think people they feel guilty about that because not everybody's perfect. And sometimes you just need to write that down and be like, little Samantha was overwhelming me today. Like,
I am very sarcastic when I talk about my kids because it's just my coping mechanism with them. Like telling, like me saying that I'm going to send them off to foster care. Of course, I never will, but they shouldn't test me. Or my son, he's a little boy. I always joke like, oh, he's going to be, we have a program in Wisconsin where they go to like the military class and they call it the Challenge Academy. I'm like, oh, he's going to be a graduate of the Challenge Academy 2039. And they're like, you already know the year. I'm like, yeah, I figured that out.
yeah.
Or he's so naughty, someone would take him and bring him right back. Like I mean, I'm a very sarcastic person and joking that some people are like, you talk about your children that way. Yes, but just not in front of their face. I need to tell someone.
I'm pretty sure that I thought my middle name was Trouble until I was probably in middle school because that's what I was always referenced as. And it was like pretty much a joke. I was the youngest. I'm the favorite in the family. I've always said that. But it was like, here comes Trouble. That's her middle name. And like, that was like the fun part. And so now anytime like, I'm like, oh, I'm Trouble. But I think you have to find humor and you have to find the sarcasm to function, not even just as a mom, but like as a woman. Like the society is so overwhelming sometimes with all of the things and the trends and the constant changes. And you just kind of have to roll off your back and be like, yep, that's me. I'm Trouble.
Well, and I learned, so my dad also was a cancer survivor, that when I teach new patients and their families, and it kind of rolls into moms as well, that you need to have fun and you need to make light of the hard situations. So you get to joke about things. My dad, and I mean, this could be for any situation, like he had stem cell transplant. So he always would have an upset stomach or the graft versus host, and he would literally shit his pants sometimes. So we packed him a diaper bag, extra pants,
nice.
and, extra underwear, because there was one time he was at a hotel with for work, and he's like, oh man, I'm not gonna make it. And he went to the bathroom and he had already started not making it, made it to the bathroom. He had no extra clothes and he had to walk through the lobby, and there was like some convention for models or a lot of beautiful women all over the place, and he had just shit his pants. So that, and then
you
came
have
the
to find you have to find humor in that.
Yeah. So, I mean, then came the diaper bag, and then it came pants that looked like he crapped himself. Like they were just weird, trendy pants, but they looked like someone would have had an accident in them. So it's finding the humor in things instead of like being gloomy about it. So I think that making it into a fun situation, although it's crappy, I'm really good at turning any negative into a positive. Even if it's absolutely terrible, I will find a positive out of it, because maybe even make it a joke when it's very inappropriate. But
I do that too. My aunt passed away a few years back, and I was sitting with my oldest sister at the funeral. And you know how like the video slideshows play before, like, I don't know if that happens to every funeral. In my family, always there's like a video slideshow of like photos. And I leaned over to my sister, like everybody's sniffling and crying, you know, and it's quiet. And I leaned over to my sister and I was like, when I die, it's just going to be a bunch of my selfies up there. And my sister, we were laughing so hard. Like I was like, we've got to contain it. But like we were quietly laughing. But I think like that's my sister and I's humor. Like in a sad situation, we have to find humor. And it's true because I'm in selfies a lot. Like I'm a photographer, so I'm always the one taking the pictures. If I'm in it, like I'm taking the photo, you know. But one of my best friends has cancer and she's had it unfortunately her whole life. Thyroid cancer, there's like 40 some people in her family that have it, and it's a genetic thing that they don't know why. And I've had a lot of chronic health issues, and her and I have the darkest humor about things. And when we get around people and we're having jokes, like they just look at us like, are you kidding? Like you're joking about that? But you have to, because in a world where like it's not necessarily normal to shit your pants, it happens when you have chronic illnesses or you have cancer. Like you have to make jokes about it. If not, it's going to consume you and take you into dark places. And more people do it than people think, you know, like especially, I mean, you working in a hospital, you've seen a ton of things, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
And you just have to roll with it. Like, I think that's the fun thing. And I think that that's probably important for moms to do too, is like the blowouts the kids have, and you know, them throwing up, or you know, like all of the gross things that happen. Like other moms are experiencing those things too. It's not just you that has a kid like that. And kids with chronic health issues, like the moms need that support too. I remember in 2020 I went down to see my mom. That my parents live in Florida, and I flew down there. My business was closed and tickets were like $23, and I was like, I'll be there in an hour and a half. And my mom and I had such deep conversations about life and things, and I had chronic health issues growing up, and I was like, I can't imagine what that was like for you as a mother to have 3 kids, a business. She worked nights at one point, and then having a child that was always in and out of the hospital. Like she's like, I never really thought about it. I was just doing what I needed to do as a mom. And I'm like, you were pretty badass to do that, mom, by yourself in a world where there wasn't Google and there wasn't social media and there wasn't people that understood. And I think giving that credit to moms is like super important, to know that they have somebody else there that's a lifeline for them.
Very important. It's having a support group and having somewhere to go and to look up information, or to ask a question. And I love the function on Facebook where you can post anonymously, because sometimes it's just so hard to bring up a topic or you're not sure. And I know some people are like, oh, you just need to come out and say it and be yourself. But it is sometimes a hard thing for someone to do, for ask for help. And I think people need to be more willing to help and not just put negative comments, because that's what deteriorates people from asking for help.
Yep.
I know when Kinsley was just born, and it's something that stuck with me, is we were building our house. I was on maternity leave. My husband was off, so he was helping build the house. And I was so exhausted. And Kinsley had gotten up, and I asked him to get up with her. He goes, oh, I'm too tired. I just can't do it tonight. Like, that's something that stuck with me. And obviously there's people that say that like maliciously, like, no, you're going to get up with a child, you're the mom, or like there's stuff that says, people that say that, or in different situations, but that's something that sticks. There has been things that have been said on mom groups that I see that is very negative, that's going to stick with that mom, and she may never want to bring anything up again. And it should be a safe environment, that if you're asking a question, you're not getting opinions. You want facts. So sometimes opinions or different stories are not always helpful either in certain situations.
Well, and two, that mother that's asking a question might have other things going on in her life that isn't listed. Like, that's the thing about social media. We only get blurbs of somebody's life. Like, we get a TikTok video that's 3 minutes, or a reel that's 30 seconds, or a Facebook post that's 200 characters. So we're only asking a small portion, and there could be other things that are going on in that mom's life, and the world might be going around, like falling down around her, and that's her last ditch effort to ask for help, and it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. Like, you can't just assume that that's how it is for them. Or I think a lot of times, I know that I talk about this in my book, but like changing perspectives is such a huge thing, because people come from different situations from their perspective and not how the person that's asking it. Like, one of my favorite quotes is, listen with the intent to hear instead of the intent to respond. And I know that I'm guilty of that because I like to talk and everything, but moms, from what I see, especially on Facebook, I feel like they're, because of all the groups I'm in, they're not saying everything that they want to say. And if they're asking for help, or if they're asking, there was a mom group last year that the woman was like, I just need help with diapers. Well, if she needs help with diapers, she probably needs help with other things too. And the moms just started showing up that was like, does she need toys? Does she need clothes? Like, I have winter hats. Like, the outreach of it was so great that people noticed that, okay, she's asked for diapers, but that mom probably needs other things. I even saw a post in the same group. The mom had been somewhere and she started her period, and she's like, I'm bleeding all over my car. Like, I'm in the car, I'm bleeding everywhere. I need somebody to bring me tampons and a coat of somewhere. Like, my kids are in the car. The amount of people that just were like, where are you at? I'm coming. They brought her things, and that she needed it. Like, that was incredible. And I think that people just don't realize, like, that we're all in this life together. Like, we're all experiencing that. Every woman has experienced a period. Every woman that has a kid has had some kid screaming in the back of the car that doesn't understand that, you know. And I think, like, reading between the lines is really important, and not judging somebody. And especially moms that have had postpartum, that's not like, it's not like you can be like, just snap out of it. Like, that wasn't going to work for you. Like, you can't just wake up and be like, I'm going to be happy today. Like, your body has decided that you needed a break.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your body told you, like, this is too much for me. I need help. I
So
think
yeah,
that,
just snap out of it. Just come on.
yeah,
I
I think it's really awesome that you do what you do. And I hope that it just takes off and just touches and helps more women's lives. And it's like a ripple, you know, you throw that stone in the lake and you'll impact more generations by what you're doing. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about today?
I think we covered so much. You know, you get asked that question, you're like, anything else? You're like, oh, I don't think so. But for anybody listening, if there is if you're having, my husband's just coming home. If you are getting overwhelmed during the holidays, I do have a program launching at 11/5, and it'll be on my website, which the links will be available for that. So just don't forget to ask for help if you need it, and try to enjoy the little moments instead of getting stressed all about everything. So.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. I'll put all your information in the show notes so people can go follow you. And it was great having you on here. And hopefully, maybe next year we can have you back on as a follow-up to your programs, and see what is going on and all the moms' lives you've touched. So
I would love that. Thank you.
Well, that's all we have for today's podcast. We thank you so much for joining, and I hope that you have a fantastic day, and we will catch you next time with the Joss and Crowd podcast.